The only way to have a thriving gym is to have a great team. In this video, I'm going to give you my exact approach to running one-on-one interviews in Mark Fisher Fitness. Beloved viewer, this is Mark Fisher from businessforunicorns.com. I'm so excited to share this with you because this is a process that I've worked on for years and I think has become airtight and really helped Mark Fisher Fitness make even better decisions as we look to hire staff over time. Ideally, there's a whole process that includes things like casting a very wide net in a lot of places, an initial screening of submissions, an initial 15-minute phone call to make sure some minimum qualifications are met. And this one is very important, and maybe I'll do a video on this in the future, but a stress test, putting individuals in situations like they would experience at your work environment and see how they do. Before we dig in, a couple of comments. First of all, these questions are built around Mark Fisher Fitness's core values, which are inclusiveness, candor, growth, service, excellence, and fun. For your business, for your training gym, you might have a different set of behavioral values that are important to you, and I would encourage you to make sure that your questions reflect the types of behaviors, the ways of being that you want to see with your staff. I also want to note, this is 18 questions. That's a lot. I don't usually ask all 18. So as I'm going through these questions, I'm quite literally ranking them on each of these 6 values. So once I feel like I've got a good handle on, generally speaking, the way I think they resonate or don't with a given value, I'm not necessarily going to need to ask every question, but this gives me a number of different arrows in my quiver, so to speak, if I'm not getting the information I want. Which leads me to my last point, which is that you'll notice most of these questions are focused on behaviors, on past behaviors. Unlike financial markets, previous behavior is a good damn indicator of future behavior. In other words, we don't want to ask hypotheticals. You don't want to be like, hypothetically speaking, if a client punched you in the face, how would you respond? Well, my goodness, I would probably profusely apologize and then take great customer service of them. So here's my structure. The very first thing I do is I ask them to identify 2 to 3 contacts for references of a previous boss, supervisor, someone that was directly responsible for their performance. So I reiterate, are you 100% certain that you can get me this contact information, or can you give it to me right now? And I really make a point of emphasizing what is true, which is we are gonna follow up with reference checks and run back some of the information that we got out of this interview and just stress test it against what the previous supervisor, manager, or employer thinks. And then the very first follow-up question I ask is, I'll ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, in your experience with candidate's name, how dependable were they? With 1 being completely, unbelievably independable, can't trust them for anything, and 10 being like, if they didn't do a thing they said they were gonna do it, by the time they said they were gonna do it, we're calling the police because something terrible's happened. And I ask them, what do you think they'll say and why would they say that? And this question is important, of course, because this is a very important check for any employee, frankly, in any business, is how dependable are you, which for us is a facet of excellence. Then I have my conflict trifecta. So an important value to MFF is candor, right? Are we willing to say the things that need to be said, even when they're hard to say, even when they're tough to hear? So my 3 questions here are, I ask them first, tell me about a time you had a conflict with a customer, and I'd like to know exactly what happened, how you handled it, and what the outcome was. I ask the same question about a peer or colleague because I want to know what the dynamics are, because for a lot of individuals, frankly, and a lot of organizations, that's the issue there. If you have a gym and your people aren't able to talk to each other, and they always have to go to you, or worse, don't say anything at all, it's a bad scene. It's going to be gossiping. Your culture's going to get toxic. Not good. I don't want it. And then the third version is, same question, tell me about a time you had a conflict or an issue with a boss, a supervisor, manager, someone responsible for your performance. And again, what I'm looking for here is, do they speak truth to power? Are they willing to be uncomfortable with their colleagues? Are they willing to be generous and humble and not jump to bad conclusions? Next possible question is, tell me about a time you've changed your mind in the recent past. What did you change your mind about and what led to the change? And here I'm looking for growth. I want to see, is this person, first of all, are they learning on a regular basis? And second of all, are they developing? Are they capable of changing paradigms when they get new information? Another question related to growth is I ask, tell me about the most impactful formal education experience you've had. What was it and why was it so impactful? So this doesn't need to be college. In fact, I would kind of prefer it to be some other thing they've maybe invested in on their own. But very explicitly, I make it clear I'm not looking for the school of life. While yes, that certainly can be a great way to learn and not necessarily a deal breaker per se, if I'm looking for someone that's really committed to growth, ideally this is someone that takes education seriously. Next question. Tell me about a time you went above and beyond the call of duty to take amazing care of a client or a customer. This one lets us know about service. This next question is one of my favorite. Tell me about a time you were unhappy with your work on a work-related project. And this one, interestingly enough, gives me some insight into not only their humility, but also their commitment to excellence. We're going to find out a little bit about their approach, growth, how much this experience impacted them. Next question, tell me about a time you made an outsider feel welcomed or included. And obviously, this is going to let us know about inclusiveness, and I think to some extent also about service. Next question, tell me about a time you made a tedious work, task, or project fun for you and ideally for others as well. And of course, this is gonna let us know about fun, and I might even say again, it's a little bit of internal service. Is this someone that is looking to enjoy the work? Then we move on to ones that are a little bit less behavioral based, but I still think can get some good information. Next question I stole from Zappos, and that is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you and why? And obviously, Mark Fisher Fitness is a ridiculous place. This is gonna tell us, I think, about fun, ideally, and it just gives me some insight to how absurd is this individual. Now, of course, it's also their perception. And this is interesting because although this is not a behavioral-based question, and ideally I'm picking up fun on the previous question about a time when they made a tedious work, project, or task fun for themselves and for others, I'm gonna get a little more insight to their self-awareness, right? Because if I have someone and they're like, I would say that I'm very strange, I am very unusual because I have so much energy and everyone thinks I'm very quirky. Well, maybe, I don't know, could be. So this is an interesting one, and again, I'm not actually looking for a particular answer. It's how they answer it, it's what they say, it's their sense of how they're coming across, which leads me to my next question. What is the most common misperception other people have about you? I love this one. This was a question that I stole from Richard Carrain, who is the general manager of Union Square Hospitality Group, who I had a chance to hang out once with and catch coffee. Really, really bright human. What I like about it is, again, it's letting me know a couple things. One, are you aware of how you're coming across to other people? And give me insight to how does it feel to be misperceived? Because I think that's something we can all relate to. And I think it says a lot about our emotional development, how we navigate that very human and often very challenging experience. Next question I ask is, where do you get your continuing education from? What resources do you use? So this isn't something I'm necessarily gonna put somebody out for, but it does give a hint. It does make me ask, is this person gonna be as interested in growth as we are around here? And again, I'm not looking to discount necessarily, right? I'm not vetoing anybody because some people just haven't ever thought to do this. They haven't been in a culture where that was really encouraged. But it is a great positive sign if it's something they're already doing on a regular basis, looking to grow themselves professionally, investing time, energy, and resources that will allow for that. Next question. Who do you admire and why? And I let them know this could be a historical figure, this could be someone that they know in their life, it could be someone that they look up to, it could even be a fictional character. And I love this question because I think we learn a lot about what an individual values by who it is that they admire and who they look up to. Next question, tell me about a time you felt appreciated at work. Tricky. So this one I'm only gonna be asking if we are seeing some forward momentum, because I wanna start to understand their work love languages. Because if we keep them around, I wanna understand what are the things that make them feel lit up and taken care of and appreciated. Next question. What's your favorite book and why? Some people aren't big readers. Once again, I'm not gonna discount them if they don't do any reading, but it's massive bonus points if they do read something related to their job. Now, again, I'm not gonna discount some if it's some fiction book. Certainly fiction could be amazing and have its place, but if somebody's really lit up by a book that was really personally moving to them, that maybe transform them in some way, again, we're seeing good indication that growth is a value that matters to them. Now we're nearing the end. One of the final questions I'll ask, and this is a money one, what did you do to prepare for this interview? So this will tell us a little about their commitment to excellence, right? Because did they take time to put some effort into to learn about the company, or is this just they showed up, they do it, we'll see, I get the job, I don't. And then finally, what questions do you have for me? And this is important because I just want to make sure that there's any remaining questions they have about the job or the gig that they ask me. And ideally, we're seeing someone, again, who's showing some curiosity, some interest in the organization, in Mark Fisher Fitness. It's not a deal breaker if they don't, because oftentimes the way we structure our process, they'll have had a number of chances to ask questions, including during the group interview. But I do think when you have an opportunity to sit down with the founder of the business, optimally, you would have some questions, some curiosity about the business that you would bring into this interview that you're willing to ask. Okay, so I guess that cheat. I guess that was technically like a 19th question. So, but that's really not an official interview question. Though again, even there, you can get some data. Bringing this all up, a little bit more context, I will often reaffirm the logistics and really make sure, are we clear about compensation? Are we clear about the hours worked? Because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of the process and you find you're on different pages. You hire an amazing trainer and they're incredible, but they need to be paid $400 per hour and they're only available between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. So I reiterate that there. And then again, after this, I am the last step. So all the other things I talked about, we've already done. So at this point, mostly I am looking to dig in here and just confirm what the other individuals on my team have already seen. We choose to come together after the fact, so I usually won't review their notes unless there's a particular thing they want me to know or they want me to explore. And that way we can get a wisdom of the crowds effect. And then from there, we check references, and then we're on to onboarding, which is another topic worthy of its own video. And if you're looking for some great resources on what to do once you've hired individuals, check out some of the videos below, such as lessons from 100 employees. Holy cow, I love that video. And importantly, if you haven't checked this one out, do check out the must hire for your training gym. That's a video you're gonna wanna watch if you really want to create some freedom with your life as a training gym owner. All right, friends, well, thank you so much for checking out the videos. Always, it means a lot to have your support. If you'd like to fill the hole inside that my parents left me, go ahead, click a like, give me a subscribe, and importantly, share the world because I am working really hard on these videos. I hope you can tell, put my heart and soul in it, and I wanna make training gym owners successful at this awesome profession, this awesome calling that we all share. I'll see you next time for more actionable tips, psychological frameworks, and of course, philosophy.